Hello, my name is Joseph Sharon, and I would like to speak with you about the Ming Dynasty, Chenghua, Imperial, blue and white wares, and Doucai wares. I'm going to try to point out how to authenticate these wares. And the Chenghua period was from 1465 to 1487. I'm going to start out with the blue and white wares, and this is a Meipeng vase, Chenghua Meipeng vase, and this particular vase is probably one of the most exquisite vases they ever produced. It is absolutely a wonderful piece. This is they used a very distinct cobalt during the Chenghua period. It was called Somali blue, and it was mixed with a local cobalt pitang. And this cobalt cannot be, they haven't imported that cobalt since the Chenghua period, and they don't even know where it came from. It came from Persia, but they don't know where in Persia it came from. And so it hasn't been imported for over 500 years. And this cobalt has a blackish tone to it, where all the Chinese cobalt has a purple tone to the blue. The Somali blue cobalt was mixed with this pitang, local Chinese cobalt called pitang. It was mixed with that, and it gave this very refined look to the pieces. But they have, I can't emphasize too much how they have a blackish tone compared to a purple tone. If you put two photographs together, one that used Chinese cobalt, it's going to have a purple cast to it, and the Somali blue will have a blackish cast or a blackish tone. Now, they imported that cobalt from the Yuan Dynasty through the Chenghua period. And at the end of the Chenghua period, they stopped, the cobalt ran out, and they never imported it again. So this is one of the most important things to determine a Chenghua piece, is the cobalt they used. They refined the cobalt so well, they didn't get a lot of heap and piling in their wares. Like some of the other Ming Dynasty wares, there wasn't a lot of heap and piling. And but if you come across a ware that shows some heap and piling, you'll see it'll show, because of the Somali blue, it'll show a silvery cast to it instead of a brown cast. If you look through it on a loop, it'll reflect a silvery, when it breaks the glaze, it'll reflect a silvery cast to it. Now, they also used a very refined glaze. If you look with a loop and you look in look at the glaze, you can see tiny, very tiny bubbles evenly distributed throughout the glaze. That's how you can recognize the Chenghua piece, because of the bubbles. They're very tiny and they're very evenly distributed throughout the piece. And another way to recognize these pieces is when they painted these pieces, they used a thin brush to do all the outlines, and then they filled in with a broad brush using loose or very loose strokes with the broad brush to fill in the washes. And so you'll see the outlines, and then you'll see it's filled in with the different tones of washes. And this particular piece, you can see the different tones that they use. Like this is a very light tone on his body, and these are darker, and they're just exquisite. Darker on the rocks. So it gave us lighter tones to darker tones of cobalt blue. You can see on the inside of this story vase over here, you see the lighter and the darker. Now this particular piece is marked on the shoulder here, has a mark, and the paste that they used, or biscuit they had, was an off-color white on their blue and white pieces. It wasn't a pure white, and if I just scratch this surface here, I can see flaking in the biscuits. This is one indication it's very, very old, because it takes hundreds of years to dry out to the point where you can actually get flaking in the biscuit. And this is one indication that it's a Chenghua ware, but not all of their wares have flaking in the biscuit. And also, this is not glazed on the bottom, and because they use these high fire kilns, it modeled the bases, the pieces that are it's almost burnt somewhat, the base, because of the kilns were so high fired, such high fired kilns they used. And this piece has never been published, and it's spectacular Mapeng vase, story vase. And here is a small lion jar with Buddhist symbols, and this little jar was glazed on the base, but if the reflection of the light, you'll see it's wavy. You can see it's wavy. And I don't know if you'll be able to pick it up in the camera, but you'll see the waviness in there. And this was also outlined and it filled in with the washes, but this is very detailed, this piece, and it's just a magnificent little jar. This jar is absolutely exquisite, and the glaze on this jar has a slight, just a tinge of bluish cast to the glaze. You can see it somewhat on the base, but this little jar is magnificent. This was done a little bit earlier because as they went along, the bluish cast, they took the bluish cast out because they started using clays that were a little bone color clays, but this is just off-white. This is an off-white brush washer, and this piece has the mythical animals flying over the water, and it's marked on the base. But here, this is even more wavy, and I don't know if the camera will pick that up. I don't know if you'll be able to see that in the camera, the waviness in the glaze. And this is just a beautiful brush washer. And then I'll go over to here. Now this piece is a blue and white. It's outlined, everything's outlined, and the washes were filled in. And the glaze is very beautiful and smooth and just exquisite. And they mixed the cobalt so much that the cobalt, there's not even piling on any of these pieces. And this particular piece, I don't know if the camera can see it, but it shows a line, a luting line, where they put the two parts of the piece together, the two sections. They put them together, and you see a line where it was put together. And you can actually feel on the outside where this piece was separated. And that's how you can tell it was done in two sections. And on the base, it's very burnt. It's very burnt from the high fire kilns. And this has the mark, the Chenghua mark over here on the shoulder. And it's just an exquisite little jar, or big jar, and it's quite heavy. Now go to the Doucai wares. Now in the beginning of the Chenghua period, the Doucai wares, very early on, they used a glaze with a bluish, little bluish cast to it, and the clay that they used, or the biscuit or paste, was a whitish, a more whitish biscuit. And this particular piece was done early, and it has like a little bluish tinge to it. But the Doucai wares were outlined and filled in with enamels, and there are 5 colors. It was filled in with these enamels, and they, in other words, they outlined it with the Somali blue and filled in the outlines with the contrasting colors. Doucai means contrasting colors, and it's just a beautiful little bottle. Phoenixes. And here's another one. Now this was done later in the Dynasty, because later they changed to a bone color clay for their Doucai wares. It's a very light tan color, and very light, off-white, and you can actually see the difference in these two pieces. I don't know if the camera will pick that up, the different colors, and that's because of the biscuit that they used. And you can see on this, it's a little bit brownish on this foot ring, and on this piece it's marked with it's a tie-in jar, and all the tie-in jars have this mark. It means heaven, and they're filled in with enamels. They're underglazed with the blue and then filled in with enamels. And they're just beautiful, beautiful pieces. Very well potted. Now I'm going to show you something that you just won't see, and a lot of people will say that's not true. But this piece here is a large Mei Peng vase with the contrasting colors, And you can see it was done with the pitang and Somali blue cobalt, because it has the blackish tone to it. And this is a beautiful, beautiful Mapeng vase with dragons in the clouds, and horses, and phoenix, and it's the contrasting colors. You can really see how they contrasted the colors so beautiful on this piece. It's so exquisite. And they used the biscuit they used was a bone colored biscuit on this, and you can see on the base it was high fired. That's why the base is burnt like that. And they say all the Doucai wares were small wares. This is absolutely not true. They did larger wares, but they're very, very rare. And nobody could tell me different, because it's just not true. The larger wares are very rare, but they did them. And this is a beautiful Mapeng Doucai Chenghua vase. And that does it pretty much what I want to show you. Remember, the blackish tone is very important. The firing on the base, when it's glazed, you'll see it's wavy. On a lot of pieces, most pieces, it's wavy. And you'll see the outlines were done first, and then it was filled in with the washes with a broad brush, and very loose strokes they use, very loose strokes. Beautiful, beautiful pieces. And the Doucai wares, most of the Doucai wares use the bone colored biscuit, and they have the mark of heaven on the base. And this is an exquisite Three Friends tie-in jar. And the early wares, the early Doucai, you're going to see them with their glaze is a little bit bluish, just slightly bluish, but very refined pieces. And this was, and their paste was actually a little whiter. But that's a beautiful, and it's marked on the base here, little bottle. For further information, go to my website at ChineseMasterpieces.com. That's ChineseMasterpieces.com. And thank you for watching this video. And I hope it's helpful.